Welcome to Just the News. I'm Faye. This is your old school style news bulletin where we tell you everything you need to know about what's going on in the country without any opinion. The Prime Minister today chaired a meeting of all of the mainstream political parties and their leaders of Jammu and Kashmir in New Delhi. This was a really important meeting. 14 leaders were present from Jammu and Kashmir, including 4 former chief ministers of the erstwhile state. Now, terming the meeting cordial and positive, People's Conference leader Muzaffar Hussain Beg said the Prime Minister assured them that he will do everything within his power to make Jammu and Kashmir a zone of peace rather than of conflict. Beg also added, and I quote, all leaders demanded statehood, to which the Prime Minister said the delimitation process should conclude first and the other issues will then be addressed. It was a satisfactory meeting. There was complete unanimity about restoring peace in Jammu and Kashmir. End quote. Now, delimitation is an electoral process where the constituencies on the map are redrawn, leading to normally a larger number of seats in elections. Now, security forces in Jammu and Kashmir were on high alert today as that meeting was taking place. The center at Delhi sees these talks as extremely crucial because it's the first time the center is engaging with the political leaders of Jammu and Kashmir since the stripping of the special status and removal of statehood and the beautification of Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh into 2 union territories back in 2019. Omar Abdullah spoke to reporters after the meeting. Being quoted in NDTV, he said, almost all the leaders were unhappy with the delimitation only in Jammu and Kashmir. In other states, he said delimitation will be taken up in 2026. Why has Jammu and Kashmir been singled out now? We told the Prime Minister delimitation is not needed. He also said the trust has been broken between the centre and Kashmir. Former Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti pressed for full restoration of statehood and special status. She said, and I quote, we will struggle for 370, be it months or years. We didn't get this special status from Pakistan, we got it from India. There can be no compromise on this, end quote, Ms. Mufti said after the meeting. The Digital News Publishers Association, which is a 13-member group of the biggest news media organizations in the country, have approached the Madras High Court against the IT rules brought out by the government. Now, this is an organization of companies that own television channels or newspapers and also have digital arms. They have their special organization, and there are other organizations for those who are purely digital news. Now, they have argued that these new rules brought by the government to regulate digital media are in violation of Article 14 for the fundamental right to equality and the right to freedom of speech and expression and the right to profession. So they argued in their petition that these rules are in violation of all of these fundamental rights. They also argued that this would effectively lead to journalists and media having to operate in fear constantly. They've also constantly argued that these rules, which result in a violation of fundamental rights and cause fear among journalists, should only apply to digital news and should not apply to them because they run television and newspapers. The group includes ABP Network, Dainik Bhaskar, Hindustan Times, the Indian Express, Jagran, Lokmat, NDTV, TV Today, Malayalam Manorama, and Times Internet Limited. The Madras High Court has issued notice to the union government and granted interim relief to the members of the association and allowed it to approach the courts if coercive action is taken under the rules. The network has said that these rules will also while leading to the media operating in fear, it will lead to social media networks becoming trigger happy and taking down content which is effectively self-censorship as well. Now remember, these IT rules were brought about in February this year, which basically said, and they became the deadline to become applicable was May. Now these rules were specifically for OTT platforms, social media, companies, and digital news. Now, with specific to digital news, while it asked companies to set up complaints and grievance mechanisms, it also said that above all of the self-regulation, there will finally be a committee of bureaucrats from the government who can choose to take down stories and take down information from the internet as they will. It's different from what happens right now, because right now if you want to take down something from the internet, you have to go to court. This way, that power rests with the government. As of now, television and newspapers have self regulatory bodies, and there is no government bureaucracy sitting on top of that who can then make their own decision. This is only for digital news. The Karnataka High Court has also granted interim protection to Twitter India MD Manish Maheshwari from any action that the Uttar Pradesh police might take against him in the case of the elderly man who was assaulted in Ghaziabad in the first week of June. The court has directed the Uttar Pradesh police not to take any coercive action against Maheshwari in the interim. Now, there was an FIR that was filed against Twitter and several others after the Ghaziabad incident in the first week of June, when an elderly Muslim man was assaulted on camera and his beard was cut off. The Uttar Pradesh police later ruled out the communal angle, while the FIR was filed against those people who had retweeted some of this. The police also sent legal notices to Twitter India for not taking down that content. And Manish Maheshwari had offered to join the investigation via video conference for the investigation of the Ghaziabad police. But the police said this was not enough and it would amount to a hindrance of the investigation, and said that that would bring in legal consequences. Maheshwari has now approached the court. The matter will be heard next on the 29th of June. The Supreme Court on Thursday directed the state education boards to declare the results of Class 12 by the 31st of July. In its order, the bench said, and I quote, "We direct boards to ensure that the scheme formulated for evaluation is at the earliest and not later than 10 days from today. Also, declare the internal assessment results by the 31st of July this year, like the timeline specified by CBSE and ICSE." End quote. An update now on how we're doing on the COVID front. India reported 54,069 new cases in the last 24 hours. 1,321 people died in our country in the last 24 hours of COVID. Kerala has the highest numbers, 12,787, followed by Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu. Good news is that our positivity rate was below 3% at 2.91%. It stayed below 5% for 17 straight days now. By the end of August, the Delta variant is expected to account for 90% of the new COVID cases in the European Union, and this is according to the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control. The agency went on to say that it is very important to progress the vaccine rollout at a very high pace to stop the spread of this highly contagious Delta variant. And remember, the Delta variant, which is the B16172, was first identified in India. The organization also estimated that the Delta variant is 40 to 60% more contagious than the Alpha variant, which was first discovered in the United Kingdom. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee on Wednesday said the state government will provide COVID vaccines on priority for women who have young children below the age of 12. She also said the state will begin inoculating at least 4 lakh people on an average every day starting today. This, of course, comes as there are a lot of fears building about the fact that the third wave will largely impact children. The Jharkhand government has decided to extend its partial lockdown until the 1st of July. The state's chief minister, Hemant Soren, has said, and I quote, "Cases are coming down, but there are apprehensions of another wave. We don't know whether it will come or not, but we are making preparations. It's important not to allow any opportunity for the virus to rear its head again. Hence, we will be cautious and follow COVID-appropriate behavior." End quote. News from the world of business and economy at this point. Petrol prices have been hiked for the 12th time this month and for the 28th time since the 1st of May. Petrol prices in Mumbai, which is the highest among any of the cities, the big cities, is currently at 103 rupees and 89 paise per litre. Diesel in Mumbai is 95 rupees and 79 paise per litre. Needless for me to say, these are all-time highs. In Delhi, petrol costs 97 rupees and 76 paise. Diesel is at 88 rupees and 30 paise. This, of course, is adding tremendous pressure to the trucking industry, especially to truck drivers, because it eats out of their margin. In the meantime, the Union Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, has blamed the Congress party for the high petrol and diesel prices. According to ENI, Mr. Pradhan has said, and I quote, "There's been a jump in crude oil prices in the international market. One of the main reasons behind the rise of fuel prices in India is that we have to import 80% of the oil we consume. Economists have raised a point that the Congress left oil bonds worth crores for repayment, due to which we have to now pay both interest and principal price. This is also a big reason for the rise of fuel prices. End quote. The last time Mr. Pradhan made a statement, which was about a week ago, he basically said petrol prices are high because the government requires the money for COVID welfare schemes and to buy vaccines. Now he says the money is required for the repayment of bonds. There is, of course, a video uploaded on our YouTube page that breaks down the entire petrol problem, and you'll realize that both of these answers are really half truths of what is really going on. According to a survey conducted by the Consortium of Indian Associates, it says 73% of small and medium enterprises in India did not make a profit at all during FY21. Only 13% made a profit. The survey that was conducted of more than 81,000 self-employed individuals and SMEs in India noted that 80% of the entrepreneurs in the country are insecure about their future because of the pandemic, the economic implosion, coupled with the lack of any sort of support base from the government. News coming in from across the world right now. In what is coming in as a blow to media freedom, Hong Kong's biggest and most popular pro-democracy tabloid, Apple Daily, which was established in 1995, closes down today. The publication had become the leading critic of Hong Kong and the Chinese leadership. This comes after the founder and other executives were detained under the national security law. The newspaper has been accused of publishing more than 30 articles calling for other countries to impose sanctions on Hong Kong and China since 2019. Bank accounts of the newspaper were also frozen. 500 policemen raided their office and seized their computers and material. Several journalists quit due to fear of imprisonment. Just to remind you, the national security law was imposed by China in Hong Kong last year in response to massive pro-democracy protests. Since the law was enacted in June, more than 100 people have been arrested under the provisions. The UK Foreign Secretary has said the paper's closure is a chilling blow to freedom of expression in Hong Kong. An update from the world of sports. New Zealand defeated India by 8 wickets to win the inaugural World Test Championship final in England's Southampton last night. New Zealand chased down a target of 139 in the final season of the sixth day. With this, New Zealand wins its first ICC event in over 20 years. The last time New Zealand won a trophy was the ICC Champions Trophy victory back in the year 2000. And of course, a piece of positive news before we leave you for today. Andhra Pradesh's KL University students have developed an electric bike with wireless charging. The prototype was developed by a team of 6 third and fourth year engineering students. The university is also offered a grant of 1.4 lakh rupees to incubate this project for a startup. Now, the project paves way and offers solutions to one of the limitations of e-bikes, which is to find charging stations. E-vehicles can go a long way in reducing our dependence on fuel and decreasing air pollution. Well, that brings us to the end of the news today. Thank you so much for watching. It has been a pleasure to bring you the news day after day. Here's your quiz question for the day. There is a tabloid newspaper in Hong Kong that shuts down today, which is a pro-democracy newspaper. What is the name of that newspaper? Thank you for watching. Good night.